When exiting the Constitutional Convention, Benjamin Franklin was asked, "What have you given us?" His answer, "A republic, ma'am, if you can keep it." Most Americans today have been mistakenly led to believe we are a democracy. Understanding the differences between the two systems is essential to understanding Americanism and the American system. Let's look at the two systems. The word democracy comes from two Greek words, demos, meaning people, and kraton, meaning to rule, or the rule of the people, or majority rule. Majority rule sounds good, but what if the majority decides to take away one's home, or business, or children? Obviously, there has to be a limit. The problem with a democracy is that the majority is not restrained. If over half of the people can be persuaded to want something, they rule over the minority. The word republic comes from two Latin words, res meaning thing, and publica meaning public, or the public thing, the law. A true republic is one where the government is restrained by law and leaves the people alone. Many Americans would be surprised that the word democracy does not appear anywhere in our Constitution or the Declaration of Independence, nor in any of the constitutions of our 50 states. The founders did everything they could to keep us from having a democracy. James Madison wrote, "Democracy is the most vile form of government. Democracies have ever been spectacles of turbulence and contention, have ever been found incompatible with personal security or the rights of property, and have in general been as short in their lives as they have been violent in their deaths." And Alexander Hamilton agreed when he said, "We are a republican government. Real liberty is never found in despotism or in the extremes of democracy." Samuel Adams, a signer of our Constitution, said, "Remember, democracies never last long. It soon wastes, exhausts, and murders itself. There never was a democracy that did not commit suicide." Democracies have consistently ended in some of the largest government excesses imaginable. They inevitably end in mob rule, then anarchy, and finally tyranny under an oligarchy. The founders of our country's governmental system wanted to create a government that was balanced in the middle of the political spectrum. On one end there is far-left extreme tyranny, the extreme 100% rule over the people. On the other far-right end there is anarchy, the extreme 0% rule over the people. Tyranny gave 0% freedom to the people, and anarchy provided no structure, therefore creating chaos. Anarchy is no government. Many have looked back in history to find some of the worst crimes were committed by governments. They decided no government might be a good idea, but this is a mistake. The ancient Greeks stated without law, there is no freedom. Our founders agreed that at least some amount of government is required to have a civilized, orderly society. In a state of anarchy, everyone has to guard life, liberty, property, and the lives of their family members. Everyone must be armed, and movement is greatly limited. Civilized people have always hired someone to do their guarding, a sheriff, a police force, or some form of government. Once law enforcement was established, the people were more free. They were able to leave their property. They could work fields with a reduced fear of looting. In short, the proper amount of government makes everyone more free. The Founding Fathers placed America's government in the middle of the extremes. America was given the needed structure to hold together a central government of the states and the freedom that is endowed by our Creator. The Fathers studied philosophy and history to learn the failures and success of past governments. They used these lessons learned from past civilizations and discovered that people's law successfully governed citizens and allowed them to remain free. In fact, the blueprint of America was so closely based on ancient Israel and Anglo-Saxon common law that representation of the two systems were almost used to form the first American seal. Ironically, the seal was suggested by Founding Fathers, and now these strong influences are unknown to most Americans today. Our founders knew they wanted a government to be in the middle of the spectrum. Now they needed to create an anchor to keep America there. They knew sinful nature is present in all man, and with the temptations of power, if man was left unchecked, it would pull America either towards tyranny or anarchy. In fact, America's first government, the Articles of Confederation, were so close to anarchy they were weak. The central government was so weak it failed to hold the states together in union. George Washington experienced firsthand the dangers of a weak central government. The American army was poorly supplied with ammunition, shelter, and food, and relied on random, poorly planned distribution of funds and resources. The result? Thousands of soldiers deserted, and thousands of soldiers died of starvation and disease. This eagle is an illustration of the branches of our government. Balanced powers were designed to direct the most control of the government to the people. Through months of debating and analyzing, the founders settled on the balance of separated powers. These separated powers formed the anchor that was to hold America in the center of the political spectrum. The three branches of government are the executive, the president, the legislative, containing the House and Senate, and the judicial, the Supreme Court. These branches were made to be equal, separate, and of one body. In this photo, the two wings of the eagle represent the compassionate side of government and the practical side of government, or the conservative wing. The wing on the right looks over the wing on the left to determine if the nation can afford it and if it at all infringes on the freedom of the people. Each branch has its limited power and purpose, but with only one neck, they must work within the same unit. Each branch of government has the responsibility to use checks and balances to ensure other branches don't encroach on its scope of power. If the powers are left unchecked, things start to look ugly. With the president's use of executive orders, judiciaries interpreting laws based on their own view of society instead of our Constitution, lifelong politicians losing perspective of the American people and the Constitution, it's easy for the eagle picture to become distorted. Too many government programs that this nation can no longer afford make the eagle pull to the left. America is losing sight of our founding principles, and hopefully we can straighten things up before it's too late. But I wouldn't hold my breath that the political parties, left to their own devices, have much desire to return to common sense people's law. It's going to require a greater involvement of our citizens to pull us back to a balanced government. The temptation of power has taken a firm hold. So is it too late? Not by a long shot. It just depends on the American people, and if they truly value individualism and freedom that our country's system was based on.